Good afternoon, everybody. It is Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome. We're going to be going through and we're going to be talking about our first widespread severe weather risk for the state of Indiana this year. It is currently 4 o'clock Eastern, Thursday afternoon. Currently, the Storm Prediction Center does have an enhanced risk for southern Indiana and western Indiana for Friday night, that is tomorrow night, into early Saturday morning. As you look off to the west, though, in Illinois, Missouri, you can see that red there. That is a 4 out of 5. That is a moderate risk. Where significant severe weather is expected across Illinois, Missouri, and even far western Kentucky. But as you can see there, it's just shy of Indiana, something we're going to have to watch very closely as we go into tomorrow night to make sure all all ingredients are coming together as expected. As we go through the risks here, here's our wind outlook. This is going to be our primary risk going into tomorrow night. Is the wind? Significant winds can be expected there in the hatched area, highlighted here by the SPC. You can see a slight risk here for 15%, and then our hatch risk stretching up from Gary, Indiana, Bloomington, just to the west of Corydon, Indiana, including Evansville, Terre Haute, Vincennes. The hashed area is a probability of significant wind gusts possible in excess of 74, greater than 74 miles per hour. So wouldn't be surprised to see a few significant wind gusts tomorrow night. Again, the tornado risk is non-zero tomorrow night. We do have a statewide tornado risk for spin-up tornadoes, primarily along the leading edge of the squall line as it moves through Friday night into Saturday morning. But I want to draw your attention to the arrow or the yellow highlighted zone here that is hatched. This is a probability for strong tornadoes, EF2 plus, highlighted here by the Storm Prediction Center. A lot of this has to do with the amount of wind shear that we have present in the atmosphere tomorrow night into Saturday morning. We have a significant amount of wind shear tomorrow night. However, we do have some limitations. It's not a slam dunk forecast. Some of those limitations do include instability. We have a lot of wind shear. We have moisture. A lot of times we like to talk about the SLIM method as we talk about severe weather, right? The S being shear, the L being lift, right? We need that instability. And then the M in SLIM being moisture, right? We have moisture. We have a lot of wind shear and we have a lot of moisture, but we don't have a lot of instability in terms of lift in the atmosphere. We have a lot of kinetics going on. It's a wind driven system, a very stacked system, but we don't have a lot of instability from the south, right? So, that being our limited factor, we'll have to watch the tornado risk closely in terms of strong tornadoes. A lot of that will be determined on, can storms remain discrete or are they going to merge and grow upscale into more of a QLCS or a line of storms? And that's really why we have the SPC has a moderate risk out tomorrow for winds, and that is because we're expecting a lot of these storms to grow upscale into what's called a QLCS or a quasi-linear convective system. That's our line of storms. So without further ado, let's go ahead and time it out here for you. Here's a look at the latest model run here. This is the HRRR, the high resolution refresh model here. Here we are tomorrow night. Right in here. Here we are at 9 p.m. tomorrow night. You can see some storms have already fired across Iowa and Missouri coming into Illinois. As we go throughout the night here, we expect more storms to fire and become more numerous in nature, especially tomorrow night. Again, this is going to be an overnight risk, and I can't stress that enough. Severe weather, risk always go up at night just because of limitations in daylight, visibility, etc. The risks are far more greater at night than they are during the day. So this will be coming through at night. So I have multiple ways to get warnings tomorrow night. Can't stress that enough. Here we are at 2 a.m. This is 2 a.m. to Saturday morning. Again, this is an overnight risk, so have multiple ways to get warnings. Have your cell phone on your bed with your alert tone on. That way it goes off. If warnings are issued, you hear that emergency alert system and you know what's going on. But here you can see kind of a line of storms or kind of a storm complex working its way through Indiana. There may be two rounds or two batches, I guess, two sides of this. You have a northern side and a southern side. So something we're going to have to watch very closely as we go throughout the night tomorrow. As you can see, this kind of holds its own as it moves across the state of Indiana. And again, this is moving very, very quickly. Storm motions here, we're talking 60 to 70 miles an hour. That's how fast these storms are going to be moving across the state. So 1 minute it's over you, 1 minute it's gone. That's pretty much the story here going into tomorrow night. But something I want to draw your attention to is On latest guidance, a lot of the models have been hinting at individual cells here, especially across southern Indiana here. Um, You got one over here in southern Illinois. We'll have to watch that trend very closely. If cells are able to remain discrete and isolated, that's where your greatest tornado risk is going to be associated with, as well as a large hail risk too. You get those updrafts isolated, they can really tap into that wind shear that we have present tomorrow, and we have no shortage of wind shear tomorrow. That's for sure. So a trend we're going to have to watch very, very closely going into tomorrow. Um, but otherwise, we can expect embedded circulations. You can see little kinks or gaps between the lines here. Rotation likes to hide or be embedded within those gaps. We call that a mesovortex, which is just embedded circulation within a squall line. So something we're going to have to watch here as we go throughout to tomorrow night. And here we are at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Again, this is an overnight threat. So here's 2 a.m., 4 a.m., and 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So a few lingering showers and thunderstorms for your early morning commute tomorrow morning, especially in far eastern Indiana, Northwest Ohio, and southern Michigan as well, getting quite a bit of action here early tomorrow morning, or early Saturday morning, rather. And then as we go throughout the morning Saturday, I'm not really expecting too much. We could have a little bit of rekindling going on Saturday afternoon across southern Indiana and far eastern Indiana. Think of it as I 69 and east for Saturday. A few of those storms could be strong to severe, but could also have some heavy rain Saturday as well, into Saturday afternoon. So a lot of stuff to talk about here. Um, so before too much further here, let's go into here we go. It's really good to let's just do a quick recap here and review our severe weather risk levels here associated with the SPC. And we have many of them in the state of Indiana for tomorrow into Saturday morning. Again, all of Indiana is in a marginal risk, followed by slight risk, enhanced risk, and we even have a moderate risk across Illinois just outside of Indiana. So something we're going to have to watch very closely here. Again, slight risk, short-lived and or not widespread, isolated intense storms possible. So um, we'll have to watch that trend here very closely. Let me da, da, da.
We'll go off that. And I see a couple questions in the comments here asking about specific locations in Indiana. And this line is going to move through the entire state, beginning around midnight or so tomorrow evening, so Friday night, Saturday morning. And there's not really one place in Indiana that's not in a threat. The highest threat, as Caleb mentioned, is in the south and west part of the state where that enhanced risk is. But as that line moves northeast, it will pack a punch as it does so, with wind and tornadoes being a potential threat. Going back to the SPC outlook here, I believe Caleb, you have it loaded in here in one of the pictures. I'm going to try and find it here. Yeah, there we go. So again, this is your outlook here. The entire state of Indiana in a severe risk. It's going to be highest in orange and yellow zones. Further north and east in the dark green, it's a lower threat. And again, this is going to be for wind, potential for significant wind gusts over 70 miles per hour. Also, excuse me, also tornadoes, some of which could be strong down by like the Evansville, Vincennes area. And then also a hail outlook here does show potential for large hail. So an all hazards event unfolding Friday evening into the overnight period for all of Indiana.
Again, yeah, damaging winds is the primary risk tomorrow night, especially if we want to time this out anywhere between 11 p.m. tomorrow night through about 7 a.m. Saturday morning is really the time frame we're looking at here. Again, this is an overnight risk. It's not going to come during the day tomorrow. Most places being sunny tomorrow, sunny to partly cloudy. Really a beautiful day across Indiana tomorrow. No severe weather expected during the day. Again, storms are going to fire and not enter the state until well after dark. Again, after 11 p.m. tomorrow night is when storms are expected to fire and become more numerous as they approach the state out of Illinois and into Indiana. Primary risks being damaging winds, strong winds of 60 plus miles per hour possible with a few intense gusts greater than 70 miles per hour is not out of the question, especially in your stronger bowing segments. Again, there's a lot of wind shear aloft, both in speed shear and directional shear. There's a lot of kinetics going on that these storms can tap into and bring those stronger winds down to the surface. Isolated tornadoes. A tornado risk is actually the number 2 risk tomorrow night, with hail being the lowest risk right now. Isolated tornadoes are possible. Isolated spin up tornadoes are actually probably the most probable tomorrow. We're not really seeing any long-tracked, long-lived tornadoes, and the biggest reason for that is we're expecting more of a line to move through. So as you get these lines moving through in high sheared environments, right along the leading edge, they're really known to getting kinks or pivots, and within those kinks is where you can get embedded rotation. Again, these tornadoes often spin up quickly with little to no warning. They're very hard to detect. So if a warning is issued tomorrow night, take cover immediately as, again, storm motion 60 to 70 miles per hour, east northeast. So these storms are going to move very, very quickly tomorrow night. The tornado risk may also go up if storms remain discrete or if we get any discrete supercells, especially across southern Indiana. Right now has our eye according to the latest guidance models. But again, we do expect storms to grow upscale into more of a QLCS or a squall line, as it were, across the state tomorrow. But if we do get any individual storms, those will have to be watched closely for a tornado threat. Large hail is possible again. Smaller hail is really likely. Squall lines are not really known to be big hail makers. They just aren't. You could get some dime to quarters mixed in there in your stronger updrafts. But again, the hail risk may also go up in those isolated cells. If we get those updrafts isolated, they can really tap into the energy in the wind shear that we have present tomorrow to get those larger hailstones. But again, not really looking at a big hail day tomorrow. Again, the primary risk, as highlighted here by the SPC, is wind. Wind is going to be the main focus tomorrow night. And especially in your hatched area there, stretching from Gary, Lafayette, Bloomington, just to the west of Corydon, Indiana. Your highest wind potential is there in that hatch zone in your yellows, your reds, and especially your pinks. Again, anywhere in that hatch zone has potential for winds greater than 70 miles per hour. There is potential for that significant wind gust threat there, especially across western Indiana and southwest Indiana, especially having the highest risk tomorrow for wind. And same goes for the tornado risk tomorrow. Again, highest probabilities in the browns and yellows there, with the highest being in the yellow. Stretching from Vincennes to Evansville, Indiana. The hatched area means there is potential for an EF2 plus tornado. Again, highlighted by the SPC, they are seeing that potential for a stronger tornado or two possible. Cannot be ruled out. Again, that risk for a stronger tornado should greatly decrease with eastward extent, especially as the storms grow upscale into more of a QLCS or a line. But we'll have to watch those individual cells closely. If storms, are able to remain discrete and isolated, and we get those updrafts by themselves, there is potential for those to go tornadic. So it is something to watch closely here. And as we talk about that, just like we talked in our severe weather workshop the other night, it's very important to know where to go. Again, this is why we stressed, be prepared. That was the be prepared. Now is the be prepared. Tomorrow night may be the time to take action if need be, whether it's a severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning. Knowing where to go is really important, and especially at night. You get out of bed, you just need to know where to go immediately. And if you live in a standard home, go to an interior room, bathroom, closet are all great ideas. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Basement, anywhere in a basement is safe. Anywhere underground is safe. But if a tornado warning is issued, try to get to a stairwell, interior room. Again, if you're in an apartment, try to get out into a hallway, away from windows, and get to the lowest floor as you can. If you cannot get to the very bottom floor for whatever reason, get to an interior hallway, stairwell, and hunker down in there. Bathrooms, usually a lot of those facilities have bathrooms that are more so in the interior. Those are all great ideas as well. So again, if you are out on the roads tomorrow night, if a tornado warning is issued, again, pull over, find a sturdy structure if you can, go inside, write it out. Do not shelter under an overpass. I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear about it tomorrow night. Again, overpasses are a terrible, terrible idea. As winds actually get amplified under an overpass, it can actually create a vacuum and suck you out. So not a good idea to be under an overpass tomorrow night. As we go back to the models here, we'll go ahead and time it out here for you here. Maybe. It's not letting me for some reason. There we go. All right, here's the latest model from the HRRR. Again, this is a numerical model, a mathematical model for near-term forecasting. And here we are tomorrow night. This is 11 p.m. tomorrow. As you can see, storms have already fired across Illinois, Missouri, and we have a few scattered thunderstorms across southern Illinois. This will quickly move eastward. Again, these storms are going to be moving at roughly 60 to 70 miles per hour east-northeast as we go throughout the day tomorrow into tomorrow night. Here we are at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. widespread showers and thunderstorms across the entire western half of Indiana. Again, this will likely be a squall line of sorts, so very strong winds along the leading edge. You can actually kind of see how it has a bowed nature to it, right? So you could have some very strong winds along the leading edge, but we'll have to watch these discrete cells across southern Indiana. If those remain discrete or not will have to be watched very closely. Some of those could have more of a hail or perhaps even a tornado risk with those. Here we are tomorrow at 5 a.m. Again, some gradual weakening being depicted here on the model, but again, some gusty winds, some strong winds are still possible, especially with the storm motion moving at 70 miles an hour and then having those stronger winds aloft to tap into. Wouldn't be surprised to see a few sporadic reports of 60 miles an hour, even up to northeast Indiana. It really depends on how organized this line is able to get tomorrow night and how far it's able to go before it runs out of gas. And then here we are at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Again, a few lingering showers and thunderstorms, but the worst of it is out of the state. And then as we go into tomorrow afternoon, we could have some rekindling, mainly east of I-69, with the main risk of severe weather tomorrow or Saturday being in Ohio and far southeast Michigan. So we should be in the clear for the most part after this squall line comes through, but we'll have to watch tomorrow afternoon across southeast Indiana, especially east of I-69 as we go throughout the day tomorrow. Again, let's go to the comments here. I know a lot of people have questions. We'll try to get them answered here the best we can. We got Jeannie in here, Devon's in here, Summer's in here. Great to see you guys. Yeah, Vincennes, Jeannie. Yeah, Vincennes is actually in the risk. Vincennes is actually in probably one of the greater risks right now, as highlighted by the SBC. Vincennes there in southwest Indiana. You're currently in an enhanced risk, which is a 3 out of 5 risk by the Storm Prediction Center. Strong winds, some significant wind gusts possible too across southwest Indiana, greater than 75 miles an hour in the strongest storms, as well as perhaps a risk for a spin-up tornado or two, are all possible across southwest Indiana and western Indiana as a whole. Throughout the night tonight. Again, timing for Vincennes, really anytime after 11 p.m. Through about 3 a.m. For southwest Indiana. Again, it's going to be an overnight risk, and everywhere in Indiana has a risk for strong winds tomorrow. I see a lot of people asking about locations in here. Again, everywhere in the state has a risk for thunderstorms and gusty winds tomorrow, with the greatest risk being in those highlighted in yellow, orange, and red there, as depicted by the Storm Prediction Center. So Bedford, yep, you guys could see some strong winds tomorrow night, probably anytime after 2 a.m. for you as it gets that far across the state. So, yeah, strong winds are possible, being the primary risk. Again, we'll show up our risks here tomorrow. And again, you're not going to see a lot of activity in terms of weather tomorrow. Tomorrow's actually going to be a beautiful day across the state of Indiana. Highs in the mid to upper 70s, even a few places reaching close to 80 degrees. I wouldn't be surprised to see places like Evansville or areas across southern Indiana make a run at 80 degrees, if not reaching 80 degrees. Tomorrow's going to be very, very warm across the entire region. So, again, a beautiful day tomorrow. We could have some gusty winds, 20 to 30 miles per hour across much of Indiana tomorrow afternoon, non-related to severe weather. As this system approaches, our air pressure decreases and there's a tight pressure gradient across the state, and that's really going to drive our winds out of the southwest tomorrow afternoon. But in terms of severe weather, our main hazard is damaging winds. Damaging winds is the primary risk. Strong winds up to 60 miles per hour with a few intense gusts of greater than 70 miles per hour possible in the strongest storms or bowing segments. Again, a lot of strong winds aloft, so we can't rule out a few more intense gusts. Isolated tornadoes is the runner-up. Spin-up tornadoes are possible along the leading edge with the amount of wind shear that we have tomorrow. The tornado risk may also go up if storms are able to remain discrete or isolated. If we get those updrafts isolated, the tornado risk could go up with those discrete supercells. But again, right now, spin-up tornadoes and damaging winds, primary risk. We are expecting storms to grow upscale and congeal into a line versus remaining discrete throughout the entire night. Same thing goes with large hail. Some hail is possible in the stronger cells, but again, squall lines are not known to be big hail makers. They're just not, right? So we could have hail anywhere between dime to quarter size in the stronger segments within the line. If storms are able to isolate themselves again, just as the tornado risk would go up with those, so would the hail risk. As those updrafts are more isolated, they're able to tap into the ingredients a little bit better and not fight over real estate, so to speak. So again, a lot of moving parts, a lot of kinetics with this system, and a lot of things to look at and monitor here going forward. So again, back to the comments here. And we got Ryan in here too. He's going to help answer some questions here for you guys.
Yeah, I'm in and out of here. I can work on some other stuff here too. See, again, a lot of questions regarding like specific hazards and such, and the entire state really has a risk for all hazards as a possibility. If we can take this off the screen here. So again, this is your outlook here. So if you live anywhere from, we're going to say like Lafayette South in this orange area down toward Evansville, Jasper, that's going to be your highest risk for tornadoes, some of which could be strong, as well as large hail, as well as wind gusts that could be in excess of 70 miles per hour. The further north you are, like for example, up here by Fort Wayne, South Bend, the risk is still in effect there, but it's not as high as it is to the south. And that is because the further north these storms get through the night, the more instability they're going to lose. And the instability fuels those thunderstorms. So we don't have enough of it up there, or don't have, as much as we did further south. Those storms are going to eventually start to weaken and die. So that's why the risk is highest. But again, this is a pretty big population here in yellow and orange color. And as Caleb mentioned, that level 4 red risk is sitting just off to our west. I see a couple comments here asking about shifts and such as well. Like, could the moderate risk shift over in Indiana? And the answer is yes, but also could shift the other direction, or north or south. It could still shift around just a bit, but it's close enough that we are concerned here. The environment just lying off to our west here for our neighbors in Illinois, as well as Iowa and Missouri. The atmosphere there is very, very concerning for severe weather, and it's very close to Indiana. But we are still very concerned for Indiana too, just not on as high of a scale as for our neighbors out to the west.
Yep.
And again, the time frame for this is going to be after 11 p.m. So it's going to be a late night event. So it's going to be overnight. You're not going to see these storms. They're going to move pretty fast as well. 60, 70 mile per hour storm motion. They're going to be hauling at highway speeds. So it's important that you guys have ways to receive warnings, because as soon as a warning gets issued, you don't have much time before that storm gets to you. So do take all warnings seriously. Severe, tornadic. We'll be here monitoring here at ISCN. We'll be live at least for the first half of the night. So we'll be on here, keep an eye on things, and if anything does go warm, we'll pop on. And also, all warnings are automatically posted to our Facebook page and also to our X account. So if you want to follow us here on ISCN, all warnings will be going out automatically to our pages whenever they're issued.
Yep.
So keep an eye on our page as a way to receive warnings as well. But I would definitely suggest getting an app or a weather radio, like an app from your phone. We recommend the emergency app by Red Cross. You can set that up on your phone for your location. It'll send you alerts based on your radius of a mile radius of 10, 20, 30 mile radius. You can set that. Tornado warnings, severe warnings, flood warnings. It'll alert you automatically whenever, there you go, whenever a warning is issued near you or for you. So you are well aware of that risk coming your way. It's a highly recommended app by us. Going to the weather radio as well. If you guys don't have a weather radio, it's well worth $30 to order one off Amazon, or go to Meijer or Walmart, pick one up. They're going to save your life just as much. They do a really loud alert beep here. So I have one sitting on my desk over here. It's set up. I'm not going to reach around all the wires and grab it, but I think all of us here on staff have weather radios personally, because they are a huge help as well.
Yep.
They can be set for your county or the counties around you. Again, customizable to whatever you need. So it's important, and we can't stress that enough, that you guys need ways to receive warnings. And we're getting into the severe season here. This is just going to kick things off here for us, unfortunately, in a big way, as this risk is not something that's, a small risk. It's a pretty big risk we're talking about here for Friday evening. So it's good to think about that stuff ahead of time and get a plan in place. If you have a shelter, like a basement, or if you live in a trailer or mobile home, make sure you have a plan to evacuate in the event of a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning. So just make sure you have plans in place, and make sure your shelters are ready for what's coming Friday evening if the worst case scenario does end up happening.
Yep. Again, the severe risk is always amplified at night, and a lot of that has to do with visibility, right? We're sleeping. We're not always alert or actively waiting on severe weather to come. A lot of times at night, it often sneaks up on a lot of people. That's because we're sleeping, right?
Yep.
So having multiple ways to get warning is very important in any severe weather day, but it's especially important at night. That way, it wakes you up and you're able to get to safety in case those warnings are issued and you do need to take shelter. It's very important that you heed that. And especially tomorrow night. Again, warning lead times are probably not going to be that great tomorrow night because of how fast these storms are moving. Again, these storms are not moving at 35 to 45 miles an hour like a lot of our summertime thunderstorms do. These are going to be moving at freeway speed, 75 miles an hour, east northeast. These storms are going to race across the state tomorrow night. So, again, not a lot of time to prepare. So, now is the time to prepare. Get your action plans ready just in case you guys do need to take action tomorrow night. Again, knowing the difference between a watch and a warning. Again, watches may be issued tomorrow night. A watch means be prepared, right? And be ready to take action if a warning is issued. Again, if a tornado warning or severe thunderstorming warning is issued, or a warning of any kind, a warning means take action, right? It means there's an immediate threat to life or property and you need to take shelter from it. So that's the biggest takeaway here tonight. Again, be prepared. We'll be up monitoring radar and we'll go live for severe weather coverage if severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings are issued here for Indiana tonight. And I believe we'll probably see at least a couple of those into tomorrow night and early Saturday morning. So we'll be here monitoring stuff in the background and keeping you guys safe and providing updates on the page here as more information is gathered and we have that confidence as well. So
I also want to briefly mention, Caleb, I'm not sure if you talked about this when I was away, but we also have a severe risk for Saturday as well. The SPC does have portions of the state in a slight and marginal risk here for the south and west corner from Fort Wayne down to about that Terre Haute, Vincennes area. Highest threat is going to be in yellow there. And again, we could see another round of damaging winds, perhaps some spin up tornadoes as well. I think the risk is highest a little bit further south, perhaps a little bit further east. But again, there's still a very small chance we could see some storms fire up there in Indiana. And as such, the SPC has went ahead and put an outlook for Saturday as well. So potentially 2 days back to back here for severe weather. So keep that in mind if you live in we're going to say the eastern half of the state.
Yep, generally east of the I-69 corridor between Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, and Evansville and points eastward, especially southeast Indiana, has the best chance at seeing those showers and thunderstorms become strong to severe tomorrow afternoon. Again, those storms will gradually move off to the east as we move into the later parts of the day on Saturday. But again, we could have some redevelopment, so always good to be prepared and plan for that. We'll time it out for you again here tonight for those of you just joining us here. Again, storms are expected to fire late tomorrow afternoon across Illinois, Missouri, and Iowa. They'll quickly grow upscale into what's called a QLCS, or a squall line of showers and thunderstorms. And that'll race eastward once it develops here. These storms will be moving at 60 to 70 miles per hour as they track across Illinois and Indiana. Again, here is tomorrow morning, I believe. Yeah, there we go.
You can back this up here. So they begin to move into the state here right around midnight, according to the latest model. Yep. Could start seeing our first raindrops there. The real heavy stuff looks to come in just after midnight, 1 o'clock or so. Again, this could shift around a little bit. It could be as early as 11 o'clock, for example. Could be as late as 2 in the morning. 1 a.m., midnight or so. Just use that as a general time frame. That's going to be Eastern time, not Central. It's in Eastern time. So as we move across the state here, we're going to go hour by hour. So here's 1 a.m. Eastern. Here's 2 a.m. Here's 3 a.m. There's 4 a.m., 5 a.m. And by 6 or so, these start to move out of the state. By 7, they're pretty much cleared out before perhaps a second round develops here, which we can start seeing on the model for southern Indiana for the day on Saturday. We're not going to worry about that one just yet. We'll talk about that probably tomorrow in some more detail. But for right now, let's focus on the Friday night threat.
Yeah, and again, these storms, as you can see, go a couple frames forward there. Yeah, right there. So as you zoom in here, you can kind of see how these have a bowed out nature to them, right? They kind of look like the back of a bow and arrow or a bow. So again, what this really shows you is wind is going to be your primary risk associated with these thunderstorms. As they bow out, you have those bowing segments. But something else I want to draw your attention to, and this is really, I guess, really common with QLCS setups, especially high sheared QLCS setups where you have a lot of wind shear, both in speed and direction with height. Ryan, if you want to zoom in there towards Indianapolis and points southward there. So as you look there at some of those cells, you can kind of see how they have little kinks or notches to them too. Those are called what's called mesovortexes or mesovortices. Those are embedded areas of circulation, perhaps, that we're going to have to watch for going into tomorrow night. within these lines, little kinks or curly cues or backward comma heads, as you will. Um, a lot of times when you get QLCSs moving through an environment where there is a lot of wind shear, where winds are out of different directions with height and both in speed too, you can get embedded circulations where there's a lot of turbulence on the leading edge, a lot of convergence where it can kind of pull itself in and tighten up a little bit. You get embedded circulation. So again, QLCS tornadoes are possible. And in fact, the SPC has a hatch risk, which includes Vincennes and Evansville. And again, hatch means there is a 10% chance or greater than 10% chance of a significant tornado, which is EF2 or greater. So again, definitely a non-zero tornado risk tomorrow, and quite a large tornado risk as well. Anywhere with in areas in green, brown, and yellow, with areas in brown and yellow seeing the highest risk for tornadoes tomorrow night, with areas in yellow seeing the highest probability of tornadoes tomorrow night. So primary risks tomorrow are damaging winds 60 to 75 miles per hour and spin up tornadoes. Again, the tornado risk may also increase if we are able to get isolated cells tomorrow that are able to isolate those updrafts. But again, we do expect storms to grow upscale rather quickly and become a QLCS, which will quickly race across the state, bringing a swath of damaging winds across Indiana, with the highest risk for damaging winds for those in yellow, orange, and red. And again, we'll have to watch trends here and how data trends. Again, there's still time for shifts and deviations here. Again, this is a day 2 outlook, so day 1 is tomorrow, and this is a late day 1 outlook too. A lot of the severe weather storms don't fire until late tomorrow night after 9 o'clock, with the risk here in Indiana after 11 p.m. tomorrow night. So there is still time for adjustment. A lot of it will come down to the fine-tuning details. You know, how much of this ingredient do we have compared to another, compared to what models are showing. All that will come into play tomorrow as we finalize our risk and assessment going into tomorrow night. And we'll have final updates tomorrow as well.
And that's a good point to make, Caleb. A lot of people may be seeing this. This is for Friday night into Saturday morning. This isn't for tonight. I see a couple comments about that. This is again for tomorrow night. But tomorrow, largely throughout the day, will be nice, sunny, and warm. We're not going to see storms until late. So we're going to get through the day tomorrow. You may think, oh, we didn't get any severe weather. That's because it happens overnight. So once we get past that midnight time frame, that's when our chances really start to ramp up here across the state. So don't be surprised to get through the day tomorrow. It's a nice day, sunny, windy, nice, warm, summer-like day. And then all of a sudden we get to the midnight, all heck breaks loose, so to speak. So that is what we expect to happen Friday night into Saturday morning. And yes, Jeannie, the Red Cross app is free. It is free. It is Red Cross Emergency app. It is free on both Google and Apple stores.
Yep. Highly recommend you download that. And make another important thing. Don't download it and not leave your alerts or sound on. When you go to bed tomorrow night, make sure your alert or notifications are turned on your phone. That way it will go off and alert you in the event that a warning is issued. So,
and I do believe also there's a manual override for that app. You can actually have it override your do not disturb, so it will automatically send push alerts to your phone anytime a warning is issued.
I believe it's in user settings. It's like a little toggle switch you have to turn on, or a box to check. But yeah.
So, and also it's a good thing to have your EAS alerts on your phone. Those are automatically built into most modern phones. If you go into the settings and type in government alerts, or I think emergency alerts, there should be a toggle you can turn on as well if it's not automatically turned on for weather alerts. Automatically push those to your phone, again, regardless of if they're on do not disturb or not. So it's kind of like an Amber Alert that goes out, pushes out, you get a on your phone. So I see you laughing over there, Caleb.
What's that alert sound make again?
I'm not going to repeat myself.
Oh, okay. But again, all joking aside, tomorrow night is a night to have multiple ways to receive warnings. I know we can't stress that enough. Dangers are always amplified at nighttime, whether that's awareness because we're sleeping, visibility, and the threat risk always goes up at night for multiple reasons and obvious reasons as well. But again, these storms are going to be moving very, very quickly, 60 to 70 miles an hour. I think freeway speeds, what you drive on 69 and 70, that's what these storms are going to be traveling tomorrow, thanks to our strong winds aloft. Again, you go up a few thousand feet off the ground, we're talking winds in excess of 80 knots. So, close to 90 miles an hour, these winds are going to be booking. So very, very strong winds a few thousand feet off the ground that these storms are going to be tapping into. And again, we'll go ahead and time this out for you one more time here. First, I'm going to go into, before we look at models again, we'll take a look at our risks here tomorrow night. Again, damaging winds is the primary risk tomorrow, and this goes for the entire state with a lesser extent across Northeast Indiana, let's say South Bend, Fort Wayne, Muncie. We do expect a gradual weakening trend, but again, that trend will have to be monitored. Again, storms moving at 60 to 70 miles an hour can still pose a threat outside the posted threat box because of how fast they are traveling. A lot of times it takes time for them to lose steam as they move into an area with less ingredients because of how fast they're moving. So it's something we're going to have to watch and monitor very closely. But again, strong winds tomorrow, 60 plus miles an hour, a few intense gusts as well, greater than 70 miles an hour. I would not be surprised to see a few gusts 75 miles an hour tomorrow night into early Saturday morning across Indiana, especially Western Indiana, Southwest Indiana has the greatest potential for those significant severe gusts as well. Isolated tornadoes is the runner-up threat tomorrow night. Spin-up tornadoes along the leading edge of our squall line of thunderstorms. Again, these are embedded circulations of rotation. These spin up very quickly, oftentimes with little lead time. I can't stress that enough. Sometimes these spin up very quickly with no warning, and sometimes they spin up so quickly the National Weather Service doesn't have time to issue a tornado warning on them. So again, another reason to be in your safe place if a warning is issued tomorrow. Large hail, some hail is possible in the stronger cells embedded in the line, but again, squall lines are not really known to be big hail makers. But if we can get discrete supercells or isolated updrafts, the hail risk would go up, and then obviously the tornado risk would also go up if we were able to see discrete cells tomorrow night. And it really just depends on how much instability we have. We talk about the slim factor when it comes for severe weather ingredients, right? We have shear, lift, instability, and moisture. You can put a check box, or you can check the box on everything but instability. So it's not a slam dunk tomorrow, but we have a lot of the ingredients in place, with wind shear being the most abundant tomorrow. We like to call these high shear, low cape days, or low instability but high wind shear days. So when you get any different increments and different amounts of these ingredients, you can get different outcomes. But we have enough ingredients in place to where the SPC went ahead and put, an enhanced risk in the state of Indiana. But if you look to the west, we have a moderate risk, which is a 4 out of 5, a very, very high risk, especially this early in the season, which is just on our doorstep across Southwest Indiana. So again, we'll have to watch how trends. So these severe risks could toggle. They could move east. They could move north. They could move south. We'll have to watch that going into the day tomorrow. Again, we'll take a look at models here, and we'll go ahead and time this all out here for you one more time here when I get it pulled up here.
I already have it pulled up here, Caitlin, if you want me to.
All right, perfect.
So again, timing this out, we're going to see storms develop to our west across portions of Illinois by the afternoon time frame, perhaps late evening. Like 7, 8 o'clock or so, look to the west, we'll start seeing those storms develop. They're going to race eastward towards us here in Indiana very quickly. As it does so, here's midnight Eastern, here's 1 a.m. That's when we start becoming a little bit more concerned about that 1 a.m. time frame. So after that, here's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6, and by 7 in the morning, by the time we're waking up here around the sunrise time frame, we are getting these storms pushed out of the state. Get a break, and then perhaps round 2 later on Saturday afternoon. We're not going to focus on that just yet because a lot of how Saturday plays out will depend on how Friday evolves. So, putting it all together, midnight or so to about 7 in the morning from west to east is your time frame.
Yep, and we do expect gradual weakening as these storms do move east-northeast, and with that, a gradual decrease in severity of these storms. But again, the primary risk being damaging winds, and that goes for the entire state of Indiana, with the greatest risk for significant severe winds across western and southwest Indiana, where we have a little bit more ingredients to work with down there, and that includes the tornado risk as well, greater in western and southwest Indiana, where we have more ingredients to work with and becomes lesser as we move north and east throughout the state of Indiana. But again, all hazards risk tomorrow anywhere in the state is a non-zero risk for anything tomorrow. If you're in a color, you're in a risk. I mean, that's just how it is. Green, marginal risk. We have flight risk in yellow, an enhanced risk in orange, but we also have a moderate risk in red there. So again, a 1, 2, 3, and a 4 out of 5 in place tomorrow for parts of the Midwest, including Indiana. We have a 3 out of 5 in place for Indiana, Western Indiana, Southwest Indiana, with a 4 out of 5 moderate risk right on our doorstep. So again, conditions will have to be and trends will have to be monitored extremely close tomorrow. And I would not be surprised to see any shifts or deviations within this, as there's a lot of time. A lot of times when these outlooks are issued, it's for something, the next afternoon, 24 hours prior, but we're actually further away than that. We're still closer to 36 hours away from this event. So there's a lot of time for things to shift. I know this is a D2 outlook for Friday, but again, a lot of these storms won't fire until after the sun has already went down. A lot of these storms won't fire until 9, 10 o'clock and won't move into Indiana until after 11 p.m. tomorrow night. So an overnight risk tomorrow. We'll have updates tomorrow as more data comes in. Again, and a lot of times it'll come down to the nitty gritty details of what ingredients we have tomorrow and how it all comes together. So a lot of fine tuning to do tomorrow. Tomorrow kind of be a fine tuning day where we look at what we have compared to what models were showing us. And then from there, we can kind of anticipate what is going on. I see a lot of questions here asking about areas down south. Yeah, Eastern Tennessee, you guys are in a risk tomorrow. Again, everywhere in yellow is a risk for strong tornadoes in that hatch zone there, including Eastern Tennessee, Clarksville, Jackson, Lawrenceburg, and Columbia, all on a risk for EF2 plus tornadoes tomorrow, including damaging winds, hail. So again, all hazard risk tomorrow, just as it is in Illinois, Missouri, and Southwest Indiana.
I want to make a correction there, Caleb. She's asking Eastern Tennessee. Eastern Tennessee is not in a tornado.
I am sorry.
Western Tennessee is. So depending on how far east you are in no risk for a tornado. If you find yourself in green, red, or especially yellow, you are in a risk there in Tennessee.
Yep, I apologize about that, Victoria. I read your message wrong.
I will say, though, the overall risk does extend a little bit further to the east there. So over toward like the Jamestown, Crossville area. Over by Knoxville, you're just outside the risk. But do pay attention for Saturday, because Saturday would be a little bit more concerning day for you down there. Here is Saturday's risk for reference. We have a level 3 risk for a good portion of there of Eastern Tennessee.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I meant Western Tennessee. So we both had it wrong. So yes, you technically are in a risk for tornadoes both days, Friday and Saturday. And you are in the highest risk for Friday night. So do pay attention there. And especially if you fall in that yellow hatched area. So yes, unfortunately, you are in that risk.
Yeah, and something else to point out too. Tomorrow during the day, we could also have some strong gusty winds during the day tomorrow of 20 to 35 miles an hour, perhaps a few gusts of 40 miles an hour tomorrow afternoon. As that sun is shining, our pressure is going to decrease as our storm system moves up from the south. Our pressure gradient is going to get tighter. So again, some strong winds are possible tomorrow. Here's the wind map here tomorrow night. Here we are during the day tomorrow. Again, winds out of the southwest at 15 to 20 miles an hour, gusting to 30 to 35 miles an hour before picking up tomorrow afternoon and evening. Here we are later tomorrow night. You can see our squall line moving through, but ahead of that, we could have some gusts out ahead of that, which are not related to severe weather, right where Ryan has circled there at 35 to 45 miles an hour. So again, strong winds are possible, just thanks to our tight pressure gradient tomorrow, as our pressure drops ahead of this system. And again, that strong wind risk does include Saturday as well. We kind of get another resurgence of strong winds on Saturday. We could have widespread winds 40 to 45 miles an hour, perhaps even a few stray gusts of 50 miles an hour across northern Indiana during the day on Saturday. So again, a couple windy days ahead as our low pressure system moves through the region over the weekend. So a lot of moving parts here over the next 36 to 48 hours.
Yes, Harley, Mount Vernon, Indiana is in the risk for all hazards tomorrow evening.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter where you live in Indiana. That risk is highest in the yellow, orange, and especially the red areas to our west. But it's going to be an interesting night, to say the least. But yes, Mount Vernon finds itself in that level 2 yellow slight risk, as we call it. Yep. And that is going to be for tornadoes, primarily wind, but also isolated tornadoes being a possibility.
Yep. And again, we'll have to watch how these risks set up during the day tomorrow. Again, we are still close to 30 hours away from this event, so there's plenty of time for shifts and deviations. So we'll have to watch trends through the day tomorrow to see what ingredients do indeed set up and to what increments But again, all hazards day tomorrow, with the highest risk being across western and southwest Indiana, areas in yellow and orange. But we'll have to watch that red zone very closely, which is a 4 out of 5 risk for any extensions or expansions into Indiana tomorrow. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that either. So we'll have to see how the data trends here.
Mount Vernon time frame after about 3 a.m. or so, 3 to 6 a.m. to be exact for you. The expected time frame for these storms. Diane asked, are we still expecting higher temperatures? The answer is yes.
Yeah, the entire state tomorrow could be over 75 degrees for the entire state of Indiana.
Yep.
Could be close to that 75, with a few areas reaching upper 70s, if not 80 degrees down near Evansville. Yeah, 80 could make an appearance for the first time in 2025 as this unusually warm air mass moves into the region. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a few AC units running tomorrow too. So,
oh, absolutely.
But with that being said, with temperatures, there's also comes a risk with fire. Tomorrow, there is a fire danger across the state of Indiana. Again, we're not going to get moist very quickly. We're actually going to start out with a very dry and warm air mass tomorrow. And when you combine a dry, windy air mass with warm temperatures in the 70s and 80s, there is a fire danger, especially as a lot of our grass is still dormant along road ditches. Still a lot of leaves on the ground. There is a fire danger tomorrow across the state of Indiana during the day. So burning is not recommended tomorrow afternoon or Saturday afternoon across the state of Indiana.
There's your elevated fire risk right there.
Yep.
For the SPC.
And a lot of this is a combination of dry air, gusty winds, and warm temperatures tomorrow. So kind of a multi-risk day tomorrow, from fire during the day to severe storms tomorrow night. So.
All right. What do you think, Caleb? Want to wrap this up pretty soon?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. If you guys have any questions, now's the time to put them in. If you guys missed anything, I encourage you guys to go back and rewatch the video here. We talked about timing, hazards, and possible scenarios here as we go throughout the day tomorrow. Again, as a quick recap here, storms are looking to fire tomorrow across Illinois, Missouri, and Iowa between 8 and 9 p.m. tomorrow. But the severe risk really doesn't reach Indiana's doorsteps until closer to the 11 p.m. Eastern daylight time tomorrow. Here we are right around 11 p.m. here. As we go throughout the night, those storms will race eastward at 60 to 70 miles an hour. Here's around midnight. I believe that's right around 4 a.m. And then by midnight right there. Okay.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Overnight a.m. So that's going to be your general risk here from west to east. As Caleb said, very fast moving. So make sure you guys have ways to receive warnings. There's not going to be much lead time on these storms to be racing through the state. All hazards being possible. Final recap here. Highest risk there in orange. The highest risk on the map will be in red, but luckily for now, it's off to our west. Could see that shift. Yes, not too concerned overall for a higher risk being upgraded, but I guess it could shift into the western part of the state by tomorrow morning. This outlook gets updated about 2 in the morning, again about 8 or 9 in the morning, I believe. So we'll have a few more updates until we get to tomorrow night. But here's your overall risk going into the tornado outlook. The entire state, I know up there in the Fort Wayne, South Bend area, the risk does cut off, but we do feel here at ISCM that the risk does extend further north and further east into that Fort Wayne, South Bend area. So the entire state has potential for a spin up tornado. Highest risk is down here in the yellow zone by Vincent and Evansville. The yellow zone would have potential for perhaps a strong EF2 plus tornado being possible overnight tomorrow. In the red zone, that's going to be your second highest concern. While no strong tornadoes are expected, we could still see numerous spin-up tornadoes in that zone. And then the green zone, that's going to be your lowest risk here by Gary, Lafayette, Indianapolis areas down toward Seymour. Going into the wind risk, the wind's probably the highest risk of the tomorrow evening, and that's going to be the highest in that hatch zone, the black outlined area. We could see significant wind gusts over or near or over 70 miles per hour possible, but severe wind gusts could extend all the way up into even Michigan, Ohio, perhaps tomorrow evening. So that is going to be something to be concerned about, but it does include the entire state. And again, highest over here in the western half by Terre Haute, Vincennes, Jasper, Evansville, Lafayette areas. Last but not least, the hail threat is the lower of the three hazards. It's still a threat statewide, but with the QLCS nature, the linear line segment type of nature, we are going to be looking at more of a wind threat versus a hail threat. So we're not expecting too much in the way of severe hail. It's a possibility, but we're not overly concerned for it. All right. With that being said, I think we're good to hop out of here, Caleb.
Yeah, I think so. Again, thanks for joining us here, and we'll continue to post updates on our page throughout the day, today and tomorrow, to keep you guys safe. And then we will also go live tomorrow in Severe Ops to cover severe weather coverage if severe weather warnings are issued tomorrow in the state of Indiana tomorrow night. So, again, with that being said, take care, have a good evening, and enjoy the day tomorrow. Again, tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day, a very warm day, probably the warmest day of the year we've had so far, with the entire state potentially over 75 degrees and sunny. Could have some breezy winds out of the southwest, 15 to 25 miles an hour, with gusts of 30 to 40 miles an hour, with winds picking up as we head into that evening time frame. But yeah, get out, go for a walk, enjoy it, as we don't get these warm days very often in March. But again, as you go to bed, have multiple ways to receive warnings tomorrow night, whether that's the Red Cross app, emergency alerts, radio, or your phone. Have multiple ways to receive warnings tomorrow night, as this will approach the state when a lot of us are in bed, and these storms will be moving very quickly. So with that being, yep.
Go ahead.
What Ryan was going to say. With that being said, we'll go ahead and hop off here, and we'll see you next time.